The Eric Garner chokehold killing from NYPD was in the national spotlight at last night's debate. You may recall Mr. Garner killed over 5 years ago by an NYPD officer who used what was deemed an illegal chokehold. All evidence caught on tape with Garner repeatedly saying, "I can't breathe." Now, Attorney General Bill Barr reviewed this case and decided not to criminally charge the officer, Pantaleo. He remains on the NYPD. The commissioner can decide whether to fire him. Now, all of this coming back because protesters interrupted the debate, chanting, "Fire Pantaleo." Later, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, who of course is running, was pressed on the issue.
Why is that police officer still on the force, the one who killed Eric Garner? Please respond.
Let me tell you, I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They are waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York.
Was that response adequate? Please respond.
No, he should be fired. He should be fired now. If I was the mayor, I'd fire him. But as president, I would make sure that we had a full investigation, that the report would be made public. And if I wasn't satisfied, we would have a consent decree.
De Blasio draws attention to the fact that he doesn't have the technical legal authority to fire the officer himself. Critics want him to exert his influence over the police department of his administration. It was also de Blasio's decision to postpone the disciplinary proceedings for Pantaleo until after a federal probe that I just mentioned with Barr after that finished.
Don't touch me.
Came over.
Not touch me.
For the second time in as many weeks, a grand jury has found the evidence is just not there to charge a white police officer in connection with the death of a black civilian.
I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
Federal prosecutors say they will not file civil rights charges related to the 2014 death of Eric Garner.
It ultimately came down from Attorney General Bill Barr.
I'm joined now by Black Lives Matter activist DeRay McKesson, who has worked on this case, and we showed the evidence there from the video against the news reports of these probes to underscore what you and others have discussed, which is every time this has been looked at, investigated, there has not been any consequence for the officer. Walk us through your views in seeing this hit the national conversation in the debate stage last night.
So it's important to remember that in New York City, chokeholds were banned in '93. And obviously we saw Pantaleo use a chokehold on Eric Garner. Remember that Pantaleo's lawyer is actually saying that he did not choke Eric Garner, but that he used what they're calling a seatbelt technique that was not a chokehold. But what de Blasio failed to say yesterday, and what is sort of lost in this conversation, is that after Garner was killed in 2016, they actually amended the use of force policy in New York City that essentially removed the ban on chokeholds and now says that chokeholds can be used if a panel of police officers, it's called the use of force review board, if they say it's okay. And they also deleted a provision that said that deadly force has to be used as a last resort. So what we saw after the killing of Eric Garner was actually the New York City use of force policy became one of the least progressive policies in the country. And de Blasio was mayor for that whole time. So when he says that the family is going to get justice, it's like justice is not only about holding Pantaleo accountable, but it's about making sure that these things never happen again. And the policy changes when he was mayor actually make it more likely that chokeholds might be used and defended, not less likely.
That's a pretty searing indictment. Let's play a little bit of the mayor's defense here. We just showed as well as what the candidates and others have said. Take a look.
Officer Pantaleo, you've said the Justice Department prevented you from firing.
Right.
With the subways, you say Cuomo is responsible.
He is responsible.
You're running for president. When does the buck stop with Bill de Blasio?
It stops with me on many, many issues, but the Justice Department asked the city of New York not to act.
DeRay.
Yeah, so he's right. The Justice Department did ask the city of New York not to act. The Justice Department did not require the city of New York not to act, and he could have made a choice. Remember, what's interesting about New York City is that the police chief's discretion with discipline is actually encoded in the charter of the city itself. So we know that, like, the mayor's office has the power to actually move on this, and they haven't. And remember, for context, a third of all the people killed by a stranger in this country is actually killed by a police officer. And this is actually the first year ever where black people are more afraid of being killed by a police officer than being killed by community community violence. So the issue is real. It's dramatic. It's good that Castro actually is the only candidate who has a plan. It's sort of odd that Kamala is one of the only people who has worked inside the system in this way, doesn't actually have a plan around criminal justice.
With about the 20 seconds left, that's what I wanted to get you on. Has she, in your view, moved enough, or are you concerned about her on these issues?
So we met with Kamala. I think Kamala has strong views. I think that she just has to commit to some things. I think that it's odd that she has such deep experience and expertise in the issue and doesn't have a set of plans around criminal justice. I think it's a glaring fault here. I think it's odd.
Odd, and as you mentioned in part of your roles in the activism you do, you're meeting with a lot of these candidates. So always interesting to hear both your expertise and the political side of all this. We'll see what comes out of it in this primary. DeRay McKesson, thanks for making the time.
Good to be here.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.